Hi, this is Nina. I decided to come on today and have a little chat with you all because it's been a wee while since I showed face, and I think it can be quite a lot to just be posting session after session after session and not actually coming on and speaking to you and addressing you. Um, and also, I think some people can get bored of watching sessions and listening to sessions, and they can be quite, when people are in trance, they can speak quite slowly, and they can be quite difficult to listen to sometimes, especially if you're not, you know, if they're not your own session. So I wanted to come on and talk and catch up with you all a little bit and let you know what's been kind of going on for me recently. Um, so as you will probably know if you've been following me, the last sessions I've been posting up, the last posts I've been posting up have been clips of a session that I swapped with another wonderful practitioner, Tena. She's at Quantum Healing with Tena. You can go and follow her all over the social media thing. She's also got a YouTube channel as well. And her session was really amazing. One of those sessions that I don't think either of us realized um, how much we were going to be affected by that session. Both of us had very intense physical symptoms after that session. Not in a bad way, just there was a lot of energy that came through that session, especially with the joy that we received. And the experience of going into Lemuria and that sort of 5D consciousness kind of thing, it was very intense. And it took a good few days for both of us to kind of come back and ground and just kind of reconfigure ourselves back to our normal kind of state. And it was a beautiful session, and some of the messages were just so there was so much encouragement and support, especially for practitioners and people on this path of people on a spiritual path. There's still a lot of judgment out there from people, and there's still a lot of misunderstanding from friends and families. And I really found the messages from that session were so encouraging and so helpful. So yeah, I loved it. I loved being part of that session. So then last weekend, we swapped again, and it was my turn to go into trance. And it was a very, very different session from Tina's session. Tina's session was really high. We both felt the energy from that session. And my session was very different. And I'm not going to post the whole session because, to be honest, it's quite tedious to listen to because I was so deep. We went through the induction twice. My higher self decided that I needed to go as deep as possible. So my higher self made me go to the toilet when we were 3/4 of the way through the induction. So I had to go to the toilet and then come back, and then we had to pretty much do the induction again. And that was so I could go into a really, really deep state of trance. I wasn't somnambulist, my conscious mind was still there, but I know I was very deep in the way that I was speaking because it was very slow and very deep. And I don't think it's going to be interesting for people to listen to that. So I thought it would be better if I came on and spoke about it. I do have a few clips from that session that I will share with you, just because they're quite good messages and things. but I didn't want to share the full thing because it's not fun for people to just listen to session after session. And actually, if you're going to have a session, I don't think it's the best to watch lots and lots of other sessions, because that can birth expectations, and that is what we're trying to avoid. So I'm trying to get away from posting too much of that. And I think it's also nice for people to see me and connect with me and kind of get a feel for who I am, especially when you're going to be doing such deep consciousness exploration with someone. You want to really feel like you can connect with them and trust them. So I feel like that's why I should just come on and talk to you. So yeah, that session was very, very different. With these consciousness exploration, quantum healing type sessions, very often we have experiences where we go to another, what seems like you're another character, you're another person, another life form of some kind. Some people believe in past lives, other people don't. You if you want to see it as a past life, then that's great. If not, you can just see it as a story that is being presented to you in a way that is going to help you to understand yourself on a deeper level. So some of them can be more metaphoric or symbolic of situations in your life. However, it's whatever way you want to receive that information that is going to be the most helpful for you during the session. So I've had lots of different experiences. I've had lots of different stories play out for me in sessions that I've had. I've had about 4 BQH sessions. I've also had an introspective hypnosis session and past life regression. So I've had quite a few of these different kind of sessions where we access the higher realms and our higher states of awareness. So you kind of go deeper every time, but this session I was really deep. But I had to go that deep because I had to access this information. And this was very different. I mean, I've had lives where I was a bee or a butterfly or a flower, or I even had a pixie life. I've had a number of different human lives and loads of different experiences. I have been to other planets, but this one was very different. This one, I came into the scene and I could see these grey cliffs. They were huge and they were magnificent. They were beautiful. But there was a barrenness about where I was. The sky was black and the land was grey and dusty and barren. I immediately felt like this wasn't Earth. I immediately felt like I wasn't human. And I immediately had this deep sense of loss and sorrow and pain, and not physical pain, just like I didn't want to be where I was, but I had to be there. And it became very obvious that I was working against my will, and I was there against my will. And it transpired that this was a planet that had been decimated and destroyed, along with my home planet. And we were working for a race of ET called the Draco. I don't know much about this race at all, but that was what came out, that these beings went from planet to planet, destroying civilizations and taking their resources, killing most of the inhabitants of these planets, but keeping a few to gather the resources that are left on these planets. This was what was coming through, and so it was my job to mine crystal. There was a specific crystal on this planet that they wanted us to mine, and I really didn't like doing this, and the reason was because I had a very, very close connection with these crystals. I was in charge of communicating with the crystals. We very much saw crystals as live sentient beings, much as ourselves. And it was my job to communicate telepathically with these crystals, and I would relay the messages that I got from them, and we would be able to create the technology on our planet. So having to be in this situation where I was having to mine crystals and somewhat destroy them and harm them in some way, I found very, very uncomfortable, and I didn't like doing that. The whole time there was this kind of very deep sorrow and very deep sense of not really being able to fully handle or understand the emotions I felt. What I was getting was that the species I was were so high vibrational, they weren't used to feeling these emotions. They didn't have these emotions because they didn't live lives that went against their nature. And that was the situation I was in, and this sort of deep sense of disconnect from my truth, my essence, was very alien to me. And I wasn't used to feeling this level of disconnection, and it was a very deep and not a pleasant feeling, but also not an overwhelming feeling. I didn't feel overly emotional about what I was experiencing. I didn't feel it. There was a sense of almost numbness to it. And what came through was that this is a wound, a pain, a deep pain that not only I have, but there are many, many of us who are on Earth right now who have a very similar wound from having had a very similar experience at some point in their soul's path. And this message wanted to come through that, you know, this isn't just me. There are many of us out there who have this same wound, and even the acknowledgement of that is very healing. So yes, I had one of these crystals from my home planet, and after I would do my work, we would have to go and mine the crystal and then carry however much we could back to a base, which was connected to a bigger base. It's like we had these individual, very basic tent-like structures that we would go in. That was where we would rest for short periods of time and then have to go back and and mine. It didn't feel like there was day or night. It just felt like it was always black, always dark. Uh, the the only light source really was these beautiful crystals. I mean, they were glowing, much like the iridescence of H0owever quartz or something, with the titanium or the metal kind of film over it. But it wasn't something man-made. This was something natural inside the crystal, not like an overlay or anything like that. And they would change color, and it was really sort of overpowering and really beautiful. That was the main source of light on this planet. Everything else was really dark. So when I would go back and send off the crystals that I had gathered to the main base, I had a crystal from my home planet, and I would use that crystal. I would put my intention into that crystal to send a message out to all dimensions and anyone who could pick it up, that we were unhappy, we were in distress, we were not able to live the lives that we wished to, and we saw death very differently than I think humans on Earth do. We we lived for a long time. We lived for what I was getting was around 1,000 years. So death was more of a decision than something that just happened to us. And they see death differently. Like they have a different understanding of life and death. So it wasn't really a loss or anything. It was just a kind of going back to base, like to full base kind of thing. So it was my wish to terminate that life, and the next scene we came to was the end of that life, which was shortly after when I had arrived in that life. We were, once we had mined as much as we could in one area of the planet, we would have to move to and create a new base, build a new base, and start again. So it was on the journey from moving to where we had been to the next part of the planet. We would have to go in a vehicle of some kind. I don't know if it was a craft or a land vehicle, I have no idea. But because I was very much involved with technology on my home planet, I had to be in charge of the vehicle that was moving the slaves essentially to the next bit of the planet we were going to be working on. Yeah, I was in charge of getting us there, and our craft crashed, or our vehicle crashed, and we all died. And that sounds pretty miserable, but it wasn't. It were I was very much in shock from it, and I felt very. I felt like I was responsible for those others losing their lives, so I took it very hard. However, we went to, after I left that life, I went on to meet with my council, my guidance council, who explained all of this to me, that I had taken that, I'd taken it on as, you know, it was my fault that these others had lost their lives, when really it wasn't. This was a decision that we had all made, that we no longer wanted to carry on in this existence because it was not serving any of us in a positive way. So yeah, that was quite powerful, but that message that there was many of us who have these similar wounds of having lost our planets, our civilizations, our very high vibrational lives, and were either killed or forced to live an existence that was not in line with the essence of who we actually were. Seemingly there are a lot of us out there who carry that same level of wounding. So it was very powerful, and one of the reasons I wanted to have the session, or one of my questions in the session, was I wanted to explore my fear of driving. I've always been scared of driving. I've had lessons and I've just always been a bag of nerves. But I'm at a stage in my life where, you know, I have a little girl, and I would like to be able to take her places, and I would like to be able to have that freedom to get about more. And so I really wanted to understand and see if I could overcome that fear. That fear seemingly comes from that crash in that lifetime. And the information I received was that that was the core of the wound, the core of that trauma that has stuck with me, and I have played out that same trauma in many lifetimes. And yeah, and I have exited many lifetimes in a similar fashion because of that, and because I've not dealt with that energy that is attached to the essence of me. So that was really interesting. I don't think either myself or Tina realized that that was going to be the source of the irrational fear, or the fear of driving. We had no idea that that was going to be where that had come from. So yeah, it was really, really interesting, and there were so many layers of that lifetime which matched up with a lot of the feelings that I have with my current life. It's, you know, I am very, I have always been very against authority of any kind, and I've always had a sense of, you know, humans living against our true nature, and our lives are not in line with our true nature, and I've always had a huge sense of that. And to understand that that may have been where this comes from, that's really eye-opening, very powerful. So I have a few clips that I'm going to be sharing. This next one is the one about the driving and how to heal that. There was physical healing that was given for that. Yeah, I'll share some of the clips with you. As I say, I don't think I'm going to share the whole session with you, just because I was so deep, and it can be quite tedious listening to somebody who's that deep. It was also my birthday the following day, and I went to get a Reiki session just to top up the session. And because it was my birthday, I wanted to treat myself, so I went to get Reiki the next day. And the lady who does my Reiki, she is very, very in tune, very, very connected, and she brought forth some information from that session, the Reiki, to tell me that the race of ET, or the star systems that I was dealing with at that point, was the Antares. I don't know very much about the Antarians. I know that a couple of other practitioners Priscilla and Hara recently did sessions talking about the Antarians. I know the Antares is a star system, so I know there's quite a lot of planets within there. But other than that, I don't know very much about these beings. So if you want to find out more, then you should maybe look up Hara or Priscilla, both amazing practitioners. But yes, my Reiki lady said that it was this was the species and the beings that I was channeling, I was dealing with. I then went to my local crystal shop, which I love popping into, and I decided to buy myself a little birthday treat. I got a pair of earrings, and I also got myself a moldavite ring. So I don't know if you can see it. It's there. It's like a raw rock on a ring, and it just jumped out at me and spoke to me as what crystals often do. And I love tektites. I am a girl that just loves anything that has star energy. I really, really enjoy tektites. And I didn't have any moldavite, so I decided to buy myself the ring. And a couple of days later, I think I posted about it, and the shopkeeper from the shop I was in was telling me that it was from Hawaii, and I was going, that's really interesting. We were taken to Hawaii in Tena's session. That was the birthplace of Lemuria. That's where Lemuria is. And he was like, yes, that's why. That's why the person who took these crystals to Hawaii took them there, because he understood that this was the home of Lemuria, and that that 5D energy which we got to experience in Tina's session. So I thought that was a really lovely sync that I got a ring that had been in Hawaii. So yeah, I love that. And there's been a lot of synchronicities and things since those sessions. And you know, I really love working with other practitioners. It's so lovely when we are able to collaborate and share like that. I really believe there's a special kind of person that takes on this kind of work. Yeah, and I love working with other practitioners because we instantly have something in common, and we all understand the importance of collaborating, and there's no competition. It's not about competition, it's about collaboration and sharing this work and sharing our love for this work and our love for each other. It's heart-based work, and it's to help and uplift people and the planet. And so yeah, I really love working with other practitioners. It's so much fun. So I'm going to go now and get on with my day. I will add a couple of little clips from that session, and I'll be back soon with another video. If anybody out there has seen this and they would like to contact me about having a session, then please do so. And yeah, I'll put all my links below. And I hope you've enjoyed this little story about my session, and I will speak to you very, very soon. Have a lovely weekend. Okay, bye.
Can we address the driving issue? Why she is so scared of driving? Is that connected to a past life?
Yeah, it's connected to the lifetime that she saw.
Mm-hmm. And what happened in that life?
It's connected to the ET life.
Oh, the ET life.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, from that accident.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That's why she saw that life.
Wow. I didn't even get that till just now.
She was also in charge of creating technology, and the technology failed. So this is a deep-seated sense of failure.
Mm.
There's also been a recurring pattern in many of her on Earth incarnations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because she did see one in her session, her CTT session, an accident.
Yeah. Yeah, she's played out similar exits.
Mm.
Uh,
And so this is very traumatic for her.
yeah.
Mm.
But she needs to understand the crash that occurred that is so deeply seated in her was not due to her failing, it was due to her wish to no longer live in that life.
Right.
So this was not her failing, which is what she needs to understand. She is more than capable of driving.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, she would be much more capable than many of those who have passed their tests ever. She, this is Nina's higher self. Yeah, she is more than capable of doing this. However, it's taken to this time in her life for her to fully understand her fear surrounding vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So is this something we can help her release today, this trauma that she's carried all these lifetimes?
Yeah.
Beautiful, thank you.
So we're pulling out the connections to that trauma, any more of the roots that are stuck within her. We're just pulling that out.
Thank you.
We're going to replace this with confidence. We're rewiring her brain, her neural pathways,
Amazing.
the thought patterns. We are removing any of the initial thoughts that were creating the physical response. We are replacing that with compassion for herself and confidence. She will not have the same reaction to driving. This will be an enormous difference.
Thank you so much. I'm excited for her.
Welcome.
Are we complete with that, or are you still working?
It is complete.
Thank you so much. Is there anything important information that we can share with the collective right now?
Stay in your hearts. Connect with your hearts as much as possible. This will be a turbulent year for many, and just be aware that all of the information that you look for outside of yourself comes from someone else's perspective. So be discerning with all information from all avenues. The media and that side of things, they are going to be ramping up their fear because really this year is a huge turning point. So things are going to ramp up in every direction, and really it's important to stay balanced and measured. So if that means taking time away from media outlets, then do that, because it's important to align with your own frequency and your own truth. So keep doing that. Apart from that, just be really proud of yourselves. This is the hardest time to be alive on Earth right now. But know that you've all been training for this for lifetimes. And that's it.
Thank you so much. So just regarding my session last week, I wanted to address the Nina and I seem to have the exact same physical symptoms all week long. The period pain, head pressure, stomach issues. Why were we experiencing those things after my session last week?
You both experienced unique amount of light and frequency of joy.
And yes, this light carries its own frequency, and when that mixes with your dense bodies, that creates some interesting physical responses. It's really just because you're here and the light comes from there. That's what it boils down to. You guys are here and the light comes from way over there, and when it mixes with you being here, it kind of screws you up.
Yeah.
So, essentially, that's what it is.
Yeah. Thanks for that confirmation.
You're welcome. You're very welcome.
And so we felt like the purpose of the joy and light that we experienced in that session was to remind us of the joy of 5D living. Is that true?
Absolutely, yes. You were given a glimpse of the remembering of what you both had. You both had lives in Lemuria. And yeah, you needed to show, you needed to be reminded of that, and why you came here and why you're on this path. And yeah, you needed to remind people of where we're headed back to.
Yeah. It felt like inspiration, like because it can feel so hard sometimes, but when you really think about where we're heading, it kind of lifts you back up again and brings you back into the fight, I guess. To keep going, keep moving forward. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Are there any final messages for Nina or me or the collective?
Tena, you're doing an amazing job. Keep doing it.
Thank you.
Also, you're both doing extremely well, and practitioners of this work should rejoice in the collaboration and the inspiration that you bring to each other through working together. Collective, you guys just need to keep on track, and that's it.
Amazing. Thank you so much for speaking with us today and answering all our questions.
You're welcome.
All right. I'm going to bring Nina back to her body now.